tell me about this, right? You've been out on a shoot before. You're like, I need to capture this moment. The crows are on the branch over there, or the moose is right there. And then all of a sudden you take a couple of snaps and it just doesn't come in so great, right? Or you went out and shot all day and you kind of had some perfect moments you maybe could have captured, but you didn't. And all of a sudden that doubt creeps in. What do you do? How do you feel? How do you deal with that?
Calm down. Just really like do the opposite of what your body wants to do, which is freak out, calm down. But I think for me, it's because like I practice freediving, and because of that, breath work and meditation. So it's like the natural instinct. It's like you're deep in the water, just calm down, you know? So in anywhere that it's supposed to be stressful, it's like, okay, calm down, and then you just think better. So it actually happened with the moose. My white balance was completely off. Like the snow was like fluorescent.
Welcome to the Superhero Academy podcast. I'm your host, Marc Angelo. Hello, superheroes. Welcome to the Superhero Academy podcast. My name is Marc Angelo Coppola, and my mission is simple: to make you a better storyteller. So whether you're an entrepreneur, creative, or influencer, my goal is to kind of entertain you. It's to show you and introduce you to amazing people. It's to help you solve that problem of the digital cricket. Oh, that didn't work. I missed the button over there. But now you heard the digital cricket, because here's the truth. So many of you create amazing content, or you want to create amazing content, but sometimes you post it out on Facebook or Instagram and nobody sees it. The algorithms, they get to you. They bring out that digital cricket, and well, your mom and that one friend from high school, they give you a little thumbs up and you go. And yeah, that's not great. You didn't spend hours and hours and hours creating a bunch of amazing content so that nobody could see it. So that being said, normally I say some other things in the intro here, but today I've got a very special guest. I'm super excited for you to meet this amazing creator. I'm gonna call her a creator because, well, that's what I would call you. Would you say you're a creator?
I would say I'm a creator.
Okay, so Jessica Racanelli is an amazing creator, Montreal-based. We're here in Montreal, if you don't already know, and she has just. I'm blown away by the content that you create on Instagram.
Thank
as a
you.
photographer, the work that you seemingly do as a director, making, not only stuff for your own brand, but also for other brands. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Okay, so tradition, when I bring on a creator, the first thing everyone wants to know is, what's your Instagram handle? And they want to see the amazing, beautiful content that you create. So at
Buddha.ventura.
Yeah. So you've got some really good stuff. I'm not going to lie. Look, there's everything from videos that you shot and created for Corona, which, by the way, bravo. That was super epic and beautiful. But you've just got such amazing content. Like, some of it is just really next level. And it's kind of a vibe between, I want to say outdoorsy woman, wild empowerment kind of vibe is something that comes forward for me. And I want to ask you about one of those, what wild means to you. But it's just, beautiful cottages sprinkled all over Quebec, or chalets, or whatever it is, whatever you want to call them. And just, animal photography, underwater photography, landscape photography, you name it. Wow. I'm deeply, deeply, deeply impressed by the content that you've created. So tell me, Jessica, how the hell did you get so good at making and taking photos?
Firstly, thank you for sharing how you felt on my page, because I find that it's always different for everyone. And let's say if I want to provoke a feeling, maybe that's not the feeling that you're getting. So it's interesting. I haven't gotten that one before. Women empowerment. And then you said, how did I start? How did I start this journey?
How did you start this journey? Like, at what point did you start picking up a camera and saying, you know what, I'm going to take beautiful photos and I'm going to post them on Instagram?
So I picked up a camera way before I wanted to post them on Instagram, to be honest. I started traveling. I think I fell in love with travel before I fell in love with photography.
Okay.
I'm someone who really wants to experience the moment. So for me, having a camera in my hand, I felt like it was going to ruin that. And then the more I traveled, the more I was like, I wanted to be deeper in and I wanted to capture and I wanted to relive these moments. So that's where the camera kind of came in. I got it as a gift.
Okay.
On my first trip the first trip I had my camera was in South Africa.
Wow.
So
when was that?
You can imagine, I'd say 6-7 years ago.
Okay. And when was your first like backpacking trip? Like when did you leave? Where did you go?
Thailand
Of
for
course.
6 weeks, and I did not take a backpack. I took a luggage.
Ooh.
And I was, really rookie mistake. I was not ready to be a traveler, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So when you have to get off those longtail boats and walk in the water, and
Yep.
you have to have your backpack, well, my luggage was over my head. I needed like 2 people to help me.
You were definitely learning some
It was
lessons.
ridiculous. And then from there, from Thailand, we went to Bali,
Okay.
Indonesia. And that was my first big trip. And I'd say I came back like a whole different person. I don't know if you've been to Thailand.
I've never actually been to Thailand
No?
nor Bali. It's
Wow.
like the two places
Yeah.
that everyone's like, what? You've been to Madagascar? You haven't
You've
been to
been
Bali?
to Madagascar? You'll have to tell me about
I have.
that.
I will definitely tell you about that. But I mean, I think Thailand is like backpackers 101, right? It's like the first place where you go to the full moon party, you take some mushrooms,
Yes.
people lose their mind, you're like, I'm a changed human. And then all of a sudden you're like, I want to travel for the rest of my life, right? That's basically what happened, right?
Exactly. Like the full moon party was on my birthday, actually. And I
amazing.
got this tattoo on that day.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so it was a cool experience altogether.
Cool.
If you're gonna drink at the full moon party, cover your bucket with a shower cap. Hot tip.
Yeah, before somebody
Yeah.
slips something into your drink. Man, good to know.
It's a fun time.
Yeah,
And then South Africa. So, I mean, it's an amazing place to have a camera.
no kidding.
I only had my kit lens 18 to 35
Okay.
style on my Canon Rebel.
Oh,
Yeah, like
you're
basic-
you started
basic
off in that
camera.
Canon life. Same here. Yeah, I get it.
You too?
I was a Canon 60D. I didn't have the Rebel. I had a 60D was my first camera. It was because I was obsessed with video. And so at the time, the 60D was like the one that had like more video capacity, and it was just kind of, it was cheap, but it wasn't super cheap or whatever. It had like, the capacity to do all the right things. But I very quickly upgraded to the 5D Mark II. And that's when I really got into photo video.
Amazing that you got into video right away.
I think I've just always been obsessed with moving pictures and sound. Because I'm obsessed with storytelling, and photography has, probably arguably is a better vehicle for storytelling in some ways because it leaves more to interpretation. But I think there was just something about capturing events and things that I was creating and doing, and how it just felt so new. Because video at that time was very undemocratic. It's like you had to have this big machinery, you had to have all these expensive everything, expensive mics, expensive lights, all these things. And people still believe that
Or
today.
just a GoPro.
Yeah, but at the time, GoPros and the audio is, I don't know, it's more difficult, right?
Yeah, it was.
So and we didn't have, cell phones weren't really a thing. Like they were, but it wasn't the quality that we had today. So DSLRs really changed the entire landscape. I mean, people talk about the brilliance of the invention of Instagram, but Instagram grows because DSLRs grow at the same time, right? It's really both things coming together that make this whole resurgence of what is now a job and now a whole lifestyle. Yeah. But yeah, so you're in South Africa, you've got a kit lens, you're shooting.
And my tour guide was a photographer. So that helped me a lot. He had a Canon camera as well. And he was such a sweetheart. Like he put his zoom lens on my camera and he's like, shoot. So he really encouraged me. He was showing me all the settings. I went from automatic to like not full manual, but you know, like maybe aperture priority or something like that. And I was hooked. Like after that, I remember coming back home and we put the SD card on the big screen TV. And the pictures were like magnificent compared to what it comes out on your phone. Like you can blow it up and it's just crisp.
Amazing. Yeah.
So everyone really loved it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep shooting. I kept documenting my travels. And then one day I had this epiphany while I was traveling, and I wanted to travel differently. Like I wanted to travel slowly. I didn't want to go to Thailand for 6 weeks and move every single day. Like I really wanted to get deep in a place, like learn the culture, see how can I give back. Yeah, like ecotourism. And that shift happened, and I just felt like I need to share this. And that's where Buddha Ventura came. Like I wanted it to be my journey throughout how I changed my travels. And then maybe like people will be inspired to want to do the same, you know, like travel more consciously. And through that, like through creating photos and videos by documenting like my own travels, then slowly working with brands and like cabins around Quebec. And then from there, like creating like videos and films, and it just kept growing and growing and growing into what it is today.
So what is it today?
What is it today? So it went from just like traveling as a conscious traveler, like blog style, I guess, to now I want to create media to have a positive impact on the environment through, I guess, whatever actions I'm trying to improve in myself or brands that believe the same thing. And if I could even work with brands who want to do better, but they don't know how, and like we can find a little something to tweak, you know, then
little nudge there to some of the brands,
like without greenwashing.
I hear you.
Yeah, so that's where it's at, and I'm sure it's gonna grow to be something bigger than me. Then
so you're acting kind of like a brand or like a creative director of sorts, right? Like is that is that a term that you would use?
I act like a creative director on certain projects, I'd say. For my brand, I feel like I have my values, and and it's important that the people that I work with have the same values. And I just find it's easier. Like I have the desire to want to create. I can't create something inauthentically. It won't work.
So when did it occur to you? Because you use the word "my brand," which is the right word, right? Like it means that you at some point decided I'm gonna take this professionally, and that essentially what you post is your job in a way, right? When did you like start, like, because you're traveling, you're taking photos, you're getting validated, you're coming back, you're like, wow, these photos are amazing. But not only are you thinking that, but other people, like your family or friends, they see the photo and they're like, Mike, what the fuck, Jessica, this is amazing. Like, you need to make, you need to do this.
Mom's your number one fan,
Yeah, sure. It starts that way, right? It always starts that way. But then other people start validating you too. Obviously, you start posting it on Instagram, people start seeing it. They're like, okay, this is beautiful. Can you come take photos for my bar mitzvah or whatever it is, right? Like at some point, people start asking you if you can do photos for them. But you seemingly, and you kind of said this right before we hit record here, you said, well, I've never actually shot a wedding, which is something I have done a painful amount of. And it really burnt me out as a creator. And at that time, really, Instagram and all this stuff wasn't really a thing. Like, it didn't really yet exist to be an influencer in that way. It did from the perspective of being a star, like a movie star, Hollywood type star, but it didn't really exist from the perspective of Instagram and making money off Instagram. And so the idea that you see it as your brand, how did that come about for you? Like, when did you realize, like, oh, people are following me and I can do this as a career?
I guess it started to be my brand when I got to know myself more and connect with, like, okay, what do I value? How do I want to live? And whatever aligns with that, pretty much. So, like, being outdoors more. Because I find there's different pillars. So wellness is one of them. Like, everything I find is connected.
Okay.
You know, the more you do self-love, self-care, the more you can, like, project that outwards.
Totally.
And so it does help the environment, you know? And then, like, the more you're outdoors, the more you pay attention to nature, the more you're living minimally. If you're camping, you're living with nothing. You have no electricity. You have... So getting used to these things, it shifts your mind in a way where you want to care more. And I guess that's how it became my brand, because I was like, okay, well, if it's working for me and shifting my perspective, then there's power here. And...
Well, yeah, I feel when I see your brand, and I think you nail it correctly, the eco and wild, the mix between you're conscious of being mindful of your footprint, mindful of the fact that you have an amazing opportunity to go and visit some amazing places all around the globe. And then at the exact same time that you are recognizing inside of you, this is my perspective of what you're putting out there, that there's some calling to the wild nature of nature, right? Like it's like literally your experience of the animals, the moon, the lakes, the beautiful, snowy mountaintop or whatever it is. It feels like you're actually capturing a good amount of that essence in your content. And then your take or your character within your brand is only a part of that. Because I feel like part of your brand is actually just capturing the beautiful, wild, eco side of things. And then there's like your personal experience, your personal wellness within that. That's how I perceive what you're doing.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Like the experience, and that's the storytelling. That's where the storytelling comes. Like there's the photo, but it's all about the build up to that photo. That's the fun part. Like when people want to Photoshop the moon or the stars, I'm like, no, you can't do that, like, and you start to appreciate everything. You can't always have a sunny day. And then you just work with the elements and you realize, like on my last trip last week, it rained the entire time. But being at, like, usually if I was home, I would say, okay, I'll stay inside. I'm not going to go outside. But because I was canoe camping and then I was in a chalet for the last part of the week, we had nothing else to do. We were by the lake. We're like, okay, well, we're going to go diving anyways.
Yeah.
So we would go outside, like
it.
a little bit of rain, it doesn't matter. And on my canoe camping trip, there was a point where it started raining. Like you could see the wall of rain coming in. And then as soon as the rain hit us, the sun came out. And like the droplets of water in the forest and the light rays was just magic. It's just stuff where sometimes we're like, oh no, I'm not going to go outside. But then you do. And you would have missed all that magic. So it's just appreciating those things. And that's like my favorite part. And then you're capturing this moment just because you're outdoors. You can't fake that.
People love to say that I think a lot of people overvalue the gear when it comes to making content, right?
Yeah.
For me, I know that was something I felt a lot, was like, yeah, well, my videos aren't as good as Sam Colder's because I don't have the 1DX Mark whatever one or whatever it is, or I don't have this thing, or I don't have that. I don't have that gimbal, or I don't have that FPV drone or whatever it is, right? And part of that maybe is steeped in some reality. Obviously, the more gear you have or the better quality gear, the more impactful it can sometimes be to the overall story that you're telling. But gear is far outweighed by telling really great stories and being in the right moment and seeing the beauty and being able to capture that beauty, not only with the click of whatever camera you have, but also within your own vibe. And like, it sounds crazy, but I believe this more and more now. Two people could take the exact same picture at the exact same time of the exact same location.
Yes.
But the one person who felt it, like really just like, I don't know, there's something about like the feeling that gets encoded into this digital file that ends up on an SD card or whatever, or compact flash, is going to go more viral or is just going to do better than the other person who was like trying to do it for Instagram or just trying to, I don't know, do something as a means to an end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's where the passion comes in, for sure. But also, it's a beautiful thing when there's two photographers taking a picture of the same moment, and they're both
Totally
captured beautifully, but different as well.
Yeah, totally.
I love that. I love how, like, it's photography. It's something that you do alone, technically. Like, you click the button by yourself, but you need people. Like, you need other photographers to bounce ideas with, and you need models, and you need subjects. Like, it's like this ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, you also need motivation sometimes, right? Like maybe one of those rainy days last week or whatever it was, you're like, no, like maybe we should just stay inside. And then
I almost canceled that trip.
I believe it.
I almost canceled. I'm like, thunder showers, they're going to make us wait at La Cueille the entire day. They won't make us leave. And it's that doubt that like it crosses your mind and you can't let it.
Yeah. So you decided, fuck it, I'm going.
We were in the rain canoeing for 11 kilometers, headwinds. Yeah, it was hilarious. Like, it was warm outside, so it was a little bit more enjoyable. It was actually fantastic. Like whatever I thought in my mind, all the doubt was so wrong. Like we stopped in the middle, like with the rain, and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. We saw like 2 crows that were perched on a tree, just like I've never seen them that close, like just like lovebirds, you know? Yeah, it was, I'm so happy I went.
And then in those scenarios, it's not you busting out the biggest, most badass camera. Sometimes it's you busting out the GoPro or the thing that's going to survive the rain or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, or just in that,
or just
we just enjoyed it. We just enjoyed it. We took some stories and we're like, this is just one of those. Like the camera is way down under the tarp. We can't grab it. It's okay. It's okay. It's in our memory, you know?
Do you ever get nervous about that? Like, cause were you out there doing like a professional shoot or a shoot for a brand or for a chalet or for something like that?
Yes and no. Okay. Like there was one brand we had to shoot for, and then the rest. I mean, I feel like every trip is like a location scout, story scout. So it's always technically work, but it was mostly pleasure.
Okay.
But no, we weren't stressed. Sometimes you get haunted by not taking the shot, right? Yes. I mean, you feel that.
I fully understand that feeling.
Do you have a moment that you could remember that you're like, I wish I took that shot?
Oh, like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have like whole trips that I was like, I can't believe I didn't bring a camera. Or there's certain moments where I'm like, I just, you know, I get lost in doing certain things and then not being able to do other things. Like that, I think that's the challenge that I end up experiencing is some level of, I can lead a group and I can get a bunch of things going, but then I'm also not capable of like being behind the scenes or being a little quieter and then kind of waiting for the right moment and having a camera in my hands. Yeah. And then, so sometimes what I'm doing is I'm hiring somebody else to do photos, but then all of a sudden they're not capturing the same essence that I'm looking for or feeling. And that's really difficult. Like it's really difficult to meet creators that you feel like, okay, they kind of get the vibe that I'm looking for. You know what I mean? And sometimes they nail it. Like I've worked with tons of amazing creators that just fully nail it. Kyler behind the scenes here nails these podcasts all the time, I find. So it's when you find that person, you're like, yes, I want to be your best friend and I want to hang out with you and go on whatever trip or whatever thing.
It's so rare, but yes.
Yeah. And I think the other plight that I have is, so many people want me to kind of direct their brand or manage some of their stuff. That I don't feel like I have enough time to ever really just go on a random trip where I'm canoeing off grid for 7 days. That's another thing I'll say. I feel like I need to
block it off.
I know. I feel, but I think I'm at like this point where, you know, you came and visited the farm where there's certain moments of my reality where there's so much dependent on me that when I go and block that off, a lot of things start to kind of falter. And, you know, I have to do a better job of empowering other people and putting more power in their hands or, you know, but there's certain things that just require me. Like that's just the truth of it.
That makes sense.
And so I think there's certain moments where I have too much guilt. If like literally last weekend, no, not this weekend that just passed, the weekend before I went to a cottage with a bunch of friends. We had a great time. You know, we did recreational drugs, allegedly. And just have to look into the camera for that one. No, we had a good time, right? And the point was we had a good time, but it was the first weekend I hadn't gone to the farm all season. Like literally did not go a single day.
How did it go?
Great. The farm was fine. The farm is totally fine. But obviously it was significantly slower and everything was just slower at that moment. But I definitely felt a little bit of guilt. I definitely felt like, oh man, I really want to go back there and do it. And it's just because what it really is that I actually have just two competing passions. I have the competing passion of building something that's way long-term and this beautiful vision, but that building of that vision takes me out of the moment. And I love what you said at the beginning of the podcast, where you're like, I'm really somebody who loves to be in the moment. And the art of photography and or videography actually really puts you in the moment. And so many people were like, why are you holding up your picture? Why are you going to watch the sunset rather than photograph it? And I'm like, okay.
You don't understand.
Doing that with your cell phone or Instagram stories, I hear you. Okay? To the random person who doesn't do it professionally, the random person that isn't taking beautiful shots like this one right over here, yeah, I get it, okay? But the point is that when you really put yourself behind the camera and you're really thinking about the angles and, okay, how straight is the horizon? What's in the, top left of the frame? What's here? What's my subject? What am I feeling here? Like, or is there something, maybe I can get it this way, or maybe I can get it that way. Like, all of that just puts you into a flow state that is unlike anything I've ever done. It's my favorite form of art. Period.
Well said.
Yeah.
Flow state is definitely that. You notice these small details that you could not see with your eye. It's the zoom lens, I find. It does that. I love zoom lens for that.
Is that your favorite? If you had to go on a trip with a single lens, what lens are you taking?
Oof. I need to get more lenses, I think. Like right now I have an 18 to 135. It's the most practical lens. It's the travel lens.
Sure.
And I recently got a 23 millimeter, which I enjoy a lot. It's great for lifestyle, and it fits just the perfect amount of like surroundings in the frame, but also the subject. Yeah. So I guess those are my two go-tos. But if I were to choose, like, I really want to get one that zooms until 400, like a 100 to 400. Yeah.
So what are you shooting on right now? I know the answer, but for those who are listening.
Yeah, Fujifilm X-T4.
Amazing. Yes. That's an interesting. I find that such an interesting. Like,
there's not a lot of Fuji shooters.
I was like, I cannot name another Fuji shooter. Yeah.
It's a hybrid camera, so I like it for that, and it's amazing. Like every video that we've created, I say we because it's always a team effort, was shot with that camera.
Really?
Yeah. Even the short film for Corona. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Huh. I would have thought it was sort of shot on like a Sony or something like that. I actually didn't really think about it, but
we got an amazing colorist, and we were using an Atomos Ninja, so that also helped tweak the. I don't want to butcher this. I'm not like the technical video person,
yeah.
But yeah, so that helped a lot.
And you wrote the script and obviously did the voiceover and stuff, but you wrote the script for that?
So we were 3 people doing the voiceovers, and I came up with the concept and led the script, but it was really a team effort because it was supposed to be about our experience. So I really wanted everybody to feel like what they were feeling like. I'm like, write about what you were feeling when you were on the ice. Because there was somebody who was skating, and there was another girl, Jenna, who was with the wildlife and the animals, and then I was diving. So I thought it would just be more authentic if we would like pull that out of ourselves rather than me writing for everyone,
Yeah. So you wrote your own parts.
We all wrote our own parts. Then with the intro and the outro. And I think it came together nicely. It was a challenge because we're like, how are we going to make 3 different stories feel like one cohesive piece that are very different? So the idea was like forms of water. So we had ice, snow, and water, and like liquid water. I mean, these are things that no one will ever understand or get probably while watching it, but it was important to us,
Well, I think the person who's really paying attention starts to see these little finer details. I think so. Cool. Like, put it this way. When you see a photo that I post, you see it from a different lens than the average person who's watching on Instagram, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Like, I wonder if anyone picked up on that, right?
Absolutely.
So there was the forms of water that meant to connect us, and as well as the wildlife. Like, there's a moment where I'm not actually swimming with the whale, but we made it look like that in editing because in Canada it's illegal to swim with whales. But so I share a breath with the whale, and like Jenna is like face to face with this moose, which, by the way, the craziest adventures to get these shots. Like just that on its own was amazing. And for the skater, no, there was no wildlife in his story, actually.
But what I find super interesting about that is like the amount of time that it would have taken you to make that video and like to go and get those shots and like think about it and do all those things. Like that's not an easy production.
No. And to be honest, it took way longer than we thought because we had to film it in November. And do you know what November looks like?
They're gray and shitty.
Yeah. Gray and shitty.
I live here. Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, I tend to leave.
Yeah.
You know those backpack trips where you go to Thailand or wherever it is,
oh yeah,
South Africa?
you weren't even here. It's true.
I no. This November I was here, unfortunately, but I ended up going. I went to Mexico for 9 weeks, but it's every once in a while you just I get the November. My season ends
November
October
comes
31st.
around, you're like, okay, it's time.
I party hard on Halloween, and then the next day I'm like, yep, it's time for me to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we had to film a winter wonderland in November, and we were literally chasing snow. Like, I have never needed to chase snow in my life. So we went all the way to Gaspésie in the mountains, and it was snowing there. Like, beautiful, beautiful snow, 5 degrees, really not that cold.
Yeah.
So we pretty much stayed there, and then we didn't have enough shots, to be honest, because like in one location we couldn't do everything.
Yeah.
So we had to go back out there and shoot.
Wow.
So like we left for 2 whole weeks, and it wasn't enough because of the weather.
You went back.
So we came back all the way from Gaspésie, and then we went back out to shoot. We found new locations. We had to redo a few things because they're like, where is the sun? I'm like, there's lots. We can put lots. So that was a huge challenge, like for the weather.
So literally, Corona was giving you feedback. Their creative department is like, well, wait a second.
They're like, where's
Corona? Corona needs some sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's their brand, right?
So
we're like,
literally,
yeah,
yes.
They're like, we need the water to look blue, which it will never look blue if there's no sun.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need sun. So we had to go back, and that's fine. Like we wanted it to be the best piece that we created. So we were like more than okay to go back out there. And
It's kind of a portfolio piece for other bigger brand deals and stuff as well.
yes.
Yeah.
But also the first draft, I wish you could see it. The first draft to the last draft is not even the same storyline.
Do you like the first draft better?
No, I love the outcome. It's just that because our storyline, our concept was so dependent on wildlife, we cannot predict that.
Yeah.
So the first time, like if we don't capture the wildlife, we don't have a story, right? So that's how it gets changed. So it really depends on, like, you can have the best idea if there's no moose, like there's no story. So it's like really that mission to find these animals, and it always happened to us on the last day. Like we went to a few different locations in Gaspésie, and every time we had to leave, we're like, okay, we're going one last mission this morning. We're going to go wake up for sunrise, like 6 a.m.
There'll be a moose right there.
And every single time on the last day, we saw the moose on the last day. Then when we went to Gaspé, we found the whales on the last day, like right before leaving. Our car was packed, like with all of our stuff. We're driving, and I see something. We're all like, what is that in the water? I'm like, it's a whale. They're like, no, it's not a whale. They're like, it's not possible because in November, the whales are already gone. They're already like going down to Dominican and stuff.
Totally.
So we get to the coast, and we're like, it's a freaking whale for real. Like, damn, and there was many of them, and we stayed there just watching them. All the locals who were walking by were like, hey, there's whales. They were freaking out. They've never seen whales in November before. So just moments like that where you weren't expecting it. You really wanted it to be a part of your story, and it just manifested.
Wow.
And I feel like it's only because like there was so much intention put into it, Like at first we wanted to film belugas, but we ended up filming something else. So
well, I admire it. I think some people would see some of this that we're creating here and be like, oh, that looks like really difficult, or I feel really shy to I don't know, step on camera and speak without filtering or cutting or editing a ton or whatever it is, right? And I actually find it like, although maybe that takes some level of bravery, for me, it's my comfort zone. So I find what you do and what you going out there and like saying like, hey, I'm going to go out on this shoot. We're going to shoot this video, and I have this concept, but I have no idea whether I'm going to see the moose or see the whale or do the thing, or I don't really know how the weather's going to go, or I'm going to climb to the top of the mountain, get there for sunrise, and hope that the clouds aren't in the way.
Exactly.
Like that kind of thing. I know so many creators that do that I find that so fascinating. I find that much more brave than anything I do. I feel I just wake up. You know what I mean? I just walk downstairs. All right, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like I find it so easy. I think what you're doing is significantly more difficult and significantly more artistic, significantly more challenging, and more inspiring. My personal take.
Well, I think what you're doing is more difficult for me.
That's
in
fair.
any case. So everyone has their thing, and yeah, I think what you're doing is inspiring too.
Thank you.
So it was quite terrifying to get here.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, speaking of, inspiration and all those things, who has inspired you? I mean, there must be creators that you follow. There must be other influencers, if you want to call them that have kind of like informed the way that you want to create and what you want to create in the world, or informed the way that they kind of carry their brand. Is there any names that come up for you? Is there any creators that are like that just sparked your creativity?
Funny enough, the people that I'm most inspired by are not creators.
Okay.
So one of them is Shark. Well, actually, she is. She's a filmmaker, Shark Girl Madison. She's really the one for me who changed the way I wanted to travel.
Short Girl Madison?
Shark Girl Madison.
Okay.
Madison Stewart. She's a shark conservationist, and I attended one of her trips in Indonesia. And essentially,
follow.
I never thought that conservation could be so fun.
Wow.
And this is what made me really want to I'm like, okay, ecotourism, it's a thing. Like we can have fun and save sharks at the same time. And
amazing. This is a really great account.
Yeah. So essentially what she does, she goes to Indonesia. There's a little shark fisherman village there. And she approached them and she changed her income to shark fisheries towards tourism. So she plans trips, and then like I attended one of the trips, everyone can join, and essentially we pay the salaries.
See the sharks, or essentially
we don't even see the sharks actually. Like we swim in the waters and maybe there's sharks, but because they're overfished, unfortunately there's not many. We it's really like we visit the shark market and we see them like all lined up. We see them take the sharks off the boat.
Yeah, you're seeing the impact,
the gruesomeness. Yes. But it's wild. I think like it's really heavy to witness, but it changes. I don't know, like how you see trash all over the beach. It's just a different world. And then like we drive a little bit and we're at our 5-star resort, and it's like, whoa, like I just witnessed 2 different worlds.
Completely different realities.
In a few hours. So yeah, she's super brave for doing that because it's kind of dangerous. Like you're dealing with the mafia, pretty much.
You're dealing with a very bigger, powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody who's watching this or listening to this watch Seaspiracy, you kind of start to know a little bit more about maybe the problems that are in these different industries. Okay, well, that's a great one.
So yeah, that's my first, and then women like Kimmy Warner.
Okay.
And
I'm not sure I know who Kimmy Warner is.
Kimmy Swimmy on Instagram.
Oh, Kimmy Swimmy. Yeah.
So she's like huge, like spearfisher woman, freediver.
Yes, I already follow.
She was on Fish People.
Yes.
Amazing.
She's Hawaii based.
Yes.
Yes, I haven't met her, but I've met people who know her. Or maybe, did I meet her? I can't remember. Anyway, she's friends with some of my friends that are out there. So yeah. Great content. She also does a very, very good job.
Yeah, and it's very raw, and I love that.
Who else? Give me one more name.
One more. Valentine Thomas. She's Quebec-based. She's also a spearfisher freediver. But then I guess the last one that I would say, which is all around, I feel like her content speaks to me like on a deep level where I resonate so much with. It's Chelsea Kwai.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up Chelsea. I mean, literally Chelsea's latest video was a video that we shot that I helped kind of create. Is this AnyDesk campaign? It was literally my client. I brokered the deal with Chelsea. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
amazing.
quite literally. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, this brings forward, and I was there when they filmed Angelita. I was there. I was also filming the behind the scenes of that and a bunch of things there. So like her last 2 videos are really videos that both of which I was somehow involved in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Chelsea is, so I don't really know the other ones that well, so I can't speak to their brands. I've seen some of their work and definitely going to check them out. But Chelsea, I think, marries the world of being an amazing creator, somebody who just has like really good technical skill, both mainly photo, but also editing and different things there. not editing video, but her editing style. But really, it's just her storytelling is phenomenal. Her ability to just come off as this genuine, joyful, amazing human. And that's exactly who she's like. Like in person, she's like, the character you see on Instagram. And that is super rare. In some ways, I think there's a lot of people you follow on Instagram that when you kind of meet them in person are maybe a little different. She just does such a great job, and she's so unapologetic about like her sharing her values, and bringing brands to the table and saying, hey, we want to do something that's in line with, being eco-responsible or being, ocean conservation or different things there, which is, all part of a big, I mean, I definitely resonate with that. I definitely resonate with the farm and many of the things that I'm doing. Actually, a campaign I want to talk to you about.
Yes, I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yeah, well, I put it this way. I'm happy to talk about it right here, right now.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, actually, I think it's very much in line with many of the exact creators that you just spoke about. So let's just talk about it right here, right now.
Business meeting shift.
Business meeting right in the middle of the, well, because here's the truth. This is how the sausage is made, or this is how the content is created, right? So there's this brand called Dollar Donation Club. For full transparency to the audience, I am an investor in this company, but really I'm an investor in the impact that they're having. I do not believe I'm going to make money off my investment in the company so much as I care about the fact that they want to do ocean cleanup campaigns, for example, right? So here's a campaign where for every dollar that is donated, 100% of the money goes directly to the cause. So it's directly pulling ghost nets out of the ocean to save kind of the coral reef, to save wildlife, to save remove plastics, microplastics out of the ocean, a bunch of different things. That being said, they're doing these campaigns and plan on doing other campaigns for planting trees, doing a bunch of different things. So Dollar Donation Club is really an experiment in trying to do, it's almost like in the same way that crowdfunding exists for raising money for a product or some new thing that somebody's launching on Kickstarter. That's the same exact thing that they want to do, but for philanthropy. And they want to make it cool. They want to make it accessible, want to make it more of like a recurring donation type basis. And then their monetization model is off tips. So if you love Dollar Donation Club and you're donating, let's say $1 a week or $1 a month, or whatever it is, you can also tip Dollar Donation Club, and that tip is what they use to kind of run the company. They'll also bring on some kind of brand partners. So let's say Corona is like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're feeling like we should want to remove some plastic out of the ocean. They can also donate there. They can give their version of $1 a month or $1 a week or $1 a day. And then from that, they would take a small fee just for managing those partnerships and different things, and that will keep them afloat, pun intended. So their mission is literally to clean up and basically fund the biggest ocean cleanup projects on the planet. Their mission is to plant the most amount of trees on the planet. Their mission is to essentially solve some of the biggest, environmental challenges, literally, that our world is facing today. What they need help with is to establish their brand, to make really good content. They're doing a good job at making like very interesting, kind of memes. They've made some of these kind of text over videos and different things here. They're taking nice, content and putting it out there. They've made some good, they definitely have some storytelling ability, but I just feel like making a really unique piece is something that they're kind of missing, because most of their content is really like voiceover with generic, I don't want to say generic, but stock kind of shots or shots that they can find on the internet. And it's focused more on kind of like a Facebook, you're just scrolling by and then the audience kind of sees it and it's 5 shocking, like just like this video, exactly. Like find mind-blowing facts about ocean plastic. But it's nobody really talking. It's not really a story. It's not shot for that purpose. What they want to do is kind of build more relationships with influencers, and then kind of reward them by saying, hey, you can, number one, we can pay you to do that. But number two, you can also build an impact family. So you can use your influence, let's say Chelsea would come on board, and you can show Number one, the direct dollar going to and showing the journey of, hey, you donated $1, we got the money, we gave it to the people who went out on the trip. Here's the videos of them doing that. Here's how much plastic we pulled out, all the different things that go with that. But also that if Chelsea were to, let's say, share a link to her audience, then she would grow her impact family. And so that you'd see the impact that any one person could have and how much plastic could be cleaned by just that one person sharing, and then it multiplying, and all the things, with the goal of 1 billion people donating $1 or $1 billion going to these causes. That's the goal. So that's not a small goal.
No, but I mean, $1 makes it seem very attainable.
I agree.
I love it.
I agree. Yeah. So, I'm not only an investor, but I'm also an advisor. And so we've got a lot of interesting things cooking up in the background. One of my roles is to go and make better content or to find influencers who can make better content. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the pitch. I thought about you because I saw what you did with Corona. And I just feel like, the story that you told about the whether that be just the plastic bottle that ends up in the ocean, or the story that you're telling about eco-responsibility and all of those different things fits. So I do plan on reaching out to creators like Chelsea, specifically Chelsea, about this project. And I've actually already told her about it, but I'm going to follow up with her soon. So I think it's a good opportunity or window into multiple creators coming together to make a campaign. So, I don't know if you have any ideas of what we can do. Obviously, I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, we have to script it right now. No, but more so, I really want to put this forward because I think there are brands who want to do this. They can earn a living doing it too. This company is in its infancy. It's still being funded through investors and those kinds of things. So it's really not about the money it's going to make on somebody's tips on the donation. Like I said, 100% of every donation goes directly to the cause, which is so unlike any charity ever. So I don't know. I think it's very innovative. I love the brand that they have. I like the feel of the brand. But I think that they need someone to help them capture the voice. And as much as I can do that in some capacity, I actually can't.
No, you don't think?
I can in some ways. Like I was saying, my comfort zone is me doing this, right? Like one of the things I'm going to do is we now have a connection to the producers of Seaspiracy. So one of the things I offered is I said, look, I've got a podcast. I'm pretty decent at interviewing people. I'll interview the guy and then we'll make the content, right? So that I can do. That's in my wheelhouse. It's like easy, comfortable. Kyler behind here can make me look good in the edit. And I can do that content. I feel like I can do that pretty well. But to go out there and like write the script, shoot the video, do all that stuff, I kind of could do it. You know what I mean? Like there's a part of me that, I think I'm underestimating myself. I'll say that maybe, but I'm not nearly as comfortable, I think, as you are. I think I put it this, I really believe you're truly incredibly talented.
Thank you. I would love to do a project like this. Definitely. Yeah. And where are they located? Where are they based?
So the founder is in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
But really I believe the ocean cleanup project is coming or casting off from California.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they have started doing cleanups.
Or is it California or Hawaii? I can't remember. So this company or this organization has been doing cleanups for some time.
Okay.
But they raise money normally through donors, and then based on how much they donate, then they can kind of rent the boat or get the boat out there and afford essentially the time out at sea to kind of pick up those ocean plastics and bring them back.
So we would have to go document that. That sounds
I agree.
Really fun.
I fully agree that documenting that exact story and seeing it come out of the ocean is going to be an important part of that. Yeah.
Some free divers with the trash.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I think there's like needs for telling that story without the documenting of it, because
absolutely
we need to help get the money to go and document the amazing thing too.
That's true.
So and that's the challenge, right? Like okay, I invested in this company. I donate every month, whatever. I have an impact family and that whole thing. And okay, how do I use all the things that I know about storytelling, all the things I know about social media, all the things I know to actually do something I really deeply care about? And the reason I care about it, number one, is how do you not
doing
care
the
about
thing
it?
you do best, getting all the right people together.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. So that's
exactly.
my role. My role is just being like, hey, we have this big challenge and we need to clean up the ocean somehow. I have no fucking idea how to do that. So what I could do is I'm really good though at like writing to an influencer and saying, hey, I think you're really great at what you do and I would love to work with you. Is there a way that this can work out? Now, whether they want to do that philanthropically and just say, hey, you know what, sure, I'll give it a couple of shout outs, or they want to get deeper involved and like you said, go out on a journey and document it, you know, where Dollar Donation Club is right now is they don't have an enormous amount of resource to do that, but at the same time, they don't not either. Meaning the more that we document it, the better that we tell the story, the more that people are going to want to donate, the more that they're going to have the money to do that again and again and again. And essentially a part of that, those tips essentially go back to making the next story, right? But it's really fucking difficult to get.
It sounds like it just
people.
needs a little push.
It does.
At the beginning, and then the rest.
It does. It needs a few influencers to come on and say, like, I'm really taking this on and making it happen. And it needs a couple of really good pieces of content to do that as well. Yeah. I fully agree with that. And they've got the right Facebook ads team and all the other teams to kind of keep it growing and moving. But they need the right asset.
Yeah.
They need the right story. And like, that's my job is trying to, well, not my job so much as it's literally one of my missions in life, I guess, is to, how do I support projects or movements that are bigger than me? How do I use my talent to essentially build something that is way bigger than me, or to move or to create something that is way bigger than me? And that's what the farm is, in my personal opinion. That's what the this Ocean Cleanup and Dollar Donation Club is. That's why I tell stories. That's why I do the podcast.
I can't wait to see, like, the next time you talk about this, how it's grown.
Oh, yeah.
It's
yeah.
gonna be awesome.
I think it's growing. It's already growing. Like there's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that I'm working on right now that is very massive. Very, very massive. We're talking about, you know, huge potential quantum leap into getting a lot of attention. So I'm working on something very, very, very big. Biggest deal in my entire career, me personally.
Okay, that's exciting.
And I've done some pretty big deals, but this is the biggest, like, thing that I've ever kind of tried to bring together. And so I'm going to be doing that in partnership with Dollar Donation Club as well as my own self. So I'm kind of thinking about doing that. So I'm not going to jinx it. I don't know if it's going to happen. So I'm still in the process of that actively. But yeah, I deeply care about these issues. And I deeply care about the challenge too. Like on the holistic kind of philanthropic front, I care about cleaning up plastic in the ocean. But on the personal front, I also care about, like, hey, how can I build the best possible team of superheroes that's going to make the best possible story? Or how can I find a way to mobilize millions of people to rally together to solve a problem that is way bigger than I could solve on my own, right? And so I see it as a personal challenge.
Yeah. Like, doing the hard thing is always so rewarding.
Totally.
So
yeah, I'm very excited about doing the hard thing in this, and it's a little confronting. You know, there's some moments where I'm like, maybe we're aiming too high, like maybe it's a little too big, you know, and then slowly
that's the doubt. That's the doubt triggering, trying to get through.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and tell me about this. Right? You've been out on a shoot before. You're like, I need to capture this moment. The crows are on the branch over there, or the moose is right there. And then all of a sudden you take a couple of snaps and it just doesn't come in so great, right? Or you went out and shot all day and you kind of had some perfect moments you maybe could have captured, but you didn't. And all of a sudden that doubt creeps in. What do you do? How do you feel? How do you deal with that?
Calm down. Just really, like, do the opposite of what your body wants to do, which is freak out, calm down. But I think for me, it's because, like, I practice freediving, and because of that, breath work and meditation. So it's like the natural instinct. It's like you're deep in the water, just calm down, you know? So in anywhere that it's supposed to be stressful, it's like, okay, calm down. And then you just think better. So it actually happened with the moose. My white balance was completely off. Like, the snow was like fluorescent.
Ladies and gentlemen, every once in a while, you have a little bit of a tech difficulty. And this tech difficulty is that the iPad filled up. So we're recording because we have like a little video switching system here behind the scenes. You could switch from this camera to that camera, for example. And every once in a while, the iPad, it gets a little full. So we had to do a little something about it. We're back at, we don't edit this podcast in that way. We're not censoring any part of our conversation here. Jessica was talking a little bit about the feeling of, and I was asking, like, how do you deal with your inner peace, essentially, right? How do you find calm within the storm that is sometimes trying to get the shot, but then not knowing whether or not you're going to nail it or get it?
Through the breath. Yeah, and as I was saying, it happened when we encountered the moose. So there was 2 male moose with antlers, which is super rare to see 2 moose together like that. And I actually had to run between the filmmaker and the model because he couldn't shout to her to tell her what she needed to do. He couldn't say, okay, action, because it might startle them. So I was running from her to him, like, okay, in 5 seconds, you're going to walk down. Okay. And then I go to him, she's ready. and then at a point, I kind of like ran into the wrong area that I thought, and I'm like face to face with this moose. And I'm like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. So I'm slowly backing up, like very, very slowly. And I'm like, but this is a beautiful moment. Like the moose was like where you are.
Really?
Yeah. And I could feel their energy, and I could feel like they were very comfortable with us being there. And that's one thing I think with wildlife you have to pay attention to make sure, because they could maul you in like 1 second. But they were eating and they felt very comfortable. And I think that's what made me really comfortable too. But yeah, and then you were saying about like capturing the moment, and maybe your settings are not okay. And that was kind of happening, but it just doesn't make sense to stress out. It's easier said than done, definitely. What's your go-to?
I think certain different things stress me in different scenarios. Like in business, my go-to when I get overwhelmed is my calendar. How do I go back to my calendar and just control my time? If I could start back at time, and then I can get back to the moment of what I'm going to be doing, not right now, but also what I'm going to do in that future moment, so that I feel less stressed about it. And then I can, like, at some point, I just have to figure out what my priorities are, right? I won't be able to get everything I have on my to-do list done today, nor tomorrow, nor the next day, nor ever. At least that's my character, right? That's who I am. And I identify at least with that. So, but the idea of from a shoot perspective, at some point, I really got comfortable just trusting that whatever moment I did capture or whatever moment I didn't capture was kind of meant to not be captured or meant to be captured. And I think I dealt with that stress or those moments through the unfortunate run of wedding videography that I was doing. Man, there's only one time that for whatever reason I lost the footage, one full camera footage of the entire ceremony where I didn't, and the second I had a backup shooter, and this backup shooter did not get the kiss, and I didn't have it. I caught it, but for whatever reason when I transferred over the files, they all corrupted or something happened, and I could not get these files. But otherwise, I always just kind of, I think it's like I was listening, like you just said, right? We were listening to the energy of the animals. In my case, I'm listening to the energy. Like, I don't always know exactly when a certain thing is going to happen in a ceremony. I don't always know exactly what's going to happen in a live event. But it's like talent and preparation and practice meets the moment. And then I'm just willing to say, hey, I'm trust myself.
Yeah, trust yourself.
I just trust that I'm capturing the right moment the way it needs to be. And sometimes in that perfect shot, somebody just stands up and gets right in front of the camera, or somebody just gets in the way. And, I always tell people, like, look, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do everything possible to capture everything that happened. But some things, somebody just got in the way.
It's out of your control.
Exactly.
And I think from what you were explaining, like, especially with trying to get all the tasks done in the day, and that you won't be able to, well, it's also you're overachieving, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing too, because you'll do more. Because if you were to probably make your schedule like with less things on it, you might accomplish it, or you might do even less.
100%. Yeah, I definitely value doing more in a sense.
I love that. Do more.
But there's kind of like I'm deeply inspired by Casey Neistat and what he did, and he literally has "do more" tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, my friend has "do more" tattooed on his
He's
chest.
so amazing. That's so amazing. Casey Neistat was such a motivating creator for me, and still is in many ways. But the what I like and what I love is a better way of saying it. What I love about photography, what I love about videography, is that sometimes I actually am not doing more. I'm just like living that moment. I think that's every time I speak to a creator, it's like we're all addicted to that feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it with what you said. Like what you're meant to capture, you will capture.
Mm-hmm.
And then if not, you still have the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't lose.
Yeah. And I love that the art of photography and the art of videography is that you get to relive that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I see a picture that I took in Brazil, or I see a picture I took in Argentina, or I see something I created, a video that I created years ago, or whatever it is, it brings me back to that moment. But not only that moment, not only that picture, but everything that led to that moment, everything around that, I was with, what laughs and jokes, what crazy adventure I had to have. Like you mentioned Thailand on your first trip, you're like carrying your luggage on top of your head, and that's obviously not the best way to do it. Like it's those little things that you don't see that are behind the scenes that are just like, I deeply, deeply, deeply value that. Particularly, I deeply value nostalgia. Yeah.
And that's what I love, that more and more people are doing behind the scenes now, and more raw shooting.
Yes.
And call it lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Instagram, I find, has turned photography a little bit more towards epic. And we sometimes miss the whole story behind the photo. So to bring that in is happening. I see it more and more. And I'm loving it.
Would you consider making like a BTS of some of your content? I guess Instagram stories is kind of that.
Instagram stories is kind of that. Yeah, you try, but it's hard. Like,
yeah,
you need an extra person to be shooting BTS.
Totally.
Because like you said, you can't be doing everything. You can't be doing the BTS, the photography, the model, and then
I'd love
yourself.
to.
You're no longer in the moment, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I find when it's starting to get in the way of like, okay, I'm not here anymore. I need to put something down and like regroup. Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I feel the thing that motivates me at this stage is I don't feel like I'm the best person to take the shot, but I feel like I'm really good at being like the coordinator or the coach or the person who puts the player on the ice, And I'll say this, right now, literally at this moment, the Habs are in the Stanley Cup playoffs, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
And I could have been the player that's on the ice, meaning I've picked up a camera and I've learned photography and videography, but I'm far from the best at it. But I do know that I'm really good at knowing who should be on the ice, or I really know how to build the team. So that's more of a general manager or a coach or whatever you want to call it, coordinator of some kind. But I know that my skills are best served in those moments. And so I'm capable of dealing with a different kind of stress, which is dealing with a bunch of people or more complex situations. Whereas in the simplest of situations, it's almost like I almost like don't afford myself the time to do it. And I feel like that's where when I retire, and I roll my eyes because I'm like, when am I going to retire?
Yeah.
But I do think that will grow. I think I will get to that more in the coming years.
I think it's amazing that you know what your strengths are and you play them forward. And to recognize that, not everyone could do that. Not everyone can recognize their strengths and say, okay, well, I'm not good at this. And then you find the right people who are. Yeah. And
it's knowing what my
business.
weaknesses are.
That's how you have to move forward. I felt that with Instagram, for example, to land some clients, there's I don't have enough followers, right? That crosses your mind. And then it's the doubt, and to overcome it, I'm like, okay, well, if I don't have enough followers, but I know what to create. I have a vision. I have an idea. What if I team up with someone who does have followers, and then together we're filling in the missing pieces. So I feel like
knowing your role in the
yeah,
ecosystem.
know your role and branch out and just do it. Like, don't be scared.
I love that. I think there's a lot of people who are listening to this who don't have a ton of followers and who, want to make amazing content. But they feel, I make the joke of it, but I call it the digital cricket, right? I know you don't hear it, but there's a little cricket sound. And because you're not wearing the headphones, but the point is, people, in all seriousness, they experience this, like, I'm not enough in some way, shape, or form, right? And in the world of Instagram, that looks like I don't have enough followers, so I can't get the brand deal. I can't do whatever it is. And what I find amazing is that you don't have, look, sure, you have a certain amount of followers, 4,000 some odd followers or whatever 4, it is on that page.
I don't even have a swipe up.
Sure, but you're out there making brand content deals, and you're doing that with some of the biggest brands. Like Corona is not a small brand to be dealing with and making content for, and with, you know what I mean, and with other creators and other things. So, it's not about how many followers you have. It's not about what you're not good enough at. It's actually much more about what you are good enough at and what you're willing to take the risk and go and do. And I think that the message you just shared of like, just go out there, do it. Like, just start here, start where you are, start with what you know. And there are brands, there are people who want to team up with you and who want to work with you just because of that. It's that attitude that really makes the difference.
Yeah. And if you don't start, like, you're always going to grow. So you'll never feel ready if you don't start.
And you won't grow if you don't start.
And you won't grow if you don't start.
If you don't start posting.
Cycle.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't post, you're not, if you're not going to water that seed, in a sense, if you're not going to take the time to put amazing content and tell great stories in some, whatever version of storytelling you want to do, whether that be on Instagram or other platforms, by the way, too, unless you're willing to do it for real, and also not do it for the validation of how many people liked it or how many people watched it. That's another thing that I struggled with deeply.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Refresh.
Yeah, sure. Yes, absolutely. How many times I watch, we all have some of that in us.
We've all done it.
Yeah, I still do it in some ways.
Too.
You know what I mean? Like, I still look at my stories and I'm like, oh wow, this one really did really well, and the other one didn't. I don't know why. And then and it's also because there's this unknown factor, which is the algorithms. Like, sometimes when I start a story with a share of somebody else who tagged me, the entire series of stories that I make after that doesn't perform as well. Because the first story I posted was like a reshare.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that as well.
Right?
Yeah.
So then you're
now
like,
I don't want to share.
I don't want to share other people's content, but that's horrible because then they want me to
know.
share their content because they're like, oh, dude, I tagged you and you're bigger than me, but and it's like, oh, trust me, I wish I want to share your stuff, but then if I do, then I also can't get my own stuff out.
They share it at the end of your story.
That's it. So now you start to do that and you figure it out. Okay, great. I'll share at the end of my day, so that I'm done my story, and then I'll use your story as a little piece of it. But this is all part of the game. And so part of that game is found on your own merits and your own willingness to go out there and do it. But then there's also this ominous algorithm problem, I'm going to call it, because it is sometimes a problem, that makes us be beholden to, like, okay, well, how many people are paying attention? How many people are doing these things? That being said, though, when you stop focusing on how many people are paying attention, you tend to get more attention. Right? Back to what I was saying about the photo. Two people, the same place, take the exact same photo. The one who's doing it for passion, for love, for the love of the art, always outcompetes. Like, in every way, that photo will somehow have just a little bit more magic. And I'm going to play that little sound effect that you love. That's that magic sound. It has that little, in French we say je ne sais quoi. It's like, it's something that is just energetically imprinted.
Yeah, it's not tangible. We can feel it.
But we all feel it.
Yeah.
We all feel it, and somehow we feel it through the screen. And so does everyone on their iPhone or their Android or whatever it is. But they're experiencing that moment, that passion through you. And I think no matter how many followers you have, right? And I've interviewed and had sitting across from me people with millions of followers, and I've also had people with 4,000 some odd followers, and the same thing is true. Like, that's what I've noticed is the commonality between these influencers and creators and entrepreneurs is they all just do it for the love of what they do, right?
It's easy to get sidetracked, like you said, because sometimes you put something out there that you really love.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody really loves street photography.
Yeah.
but it's their mountain content that's getting all the likes.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to share the street photography. It skews you a little bit. So it's stuff like that where you have to, I feel like, be careful and make sure you're sharing for you. But it can be difficult because the algorithm plays with your head like that.
It does. Is there something that you love, and maybe we'll end the podcast here, is there something that you would love to do, love to create, maybe thought about creating, or maybe you did create it, that you haven't published or that you want to go out there and do? Is there an adventure that you're like, that's my next adventure. That's the thing that I want to do. That's the one that scares me. That's the one that something, because there's something
Like
that's on your mind.
Bucket list.
Yeah, like almost like a bucket list
thing.
shot or something.
Ooh. Good question. I just want to shoot more underwater at the moment. And right now, my bucket list shot is to capture jellyfish in Côte-Nord or Gaspésie in Quebec.
Okay.
So search for jellyfish and get in the water.
And just go do a shoot with the jellyfish. Amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah, I what I loved about meeting somebody like Chelsea and Josiah and somebody like Sam and all those creators is literally right here, right now, they're on there's a sardine run.
Yeah, I saw this
right?
morning.
Exactly. So the sardine run, for those who don't understand, is it's basically the sardines are going up the coast. So they're starting, let's say, in South Africa, and they're going up the African coast. And what that means is millions, if not billions, of sardines are kind of floating around all over the ocean, but they're all in this giant school of fish, or sardine fish,
Amazing.
right? And so what that does, it attracts whales and dolphins and all the other predators, let's say, of the sardines that are all part of this feeding frenzy, and they're there capturing that moment. And I know what was so great is that I heard them talk about like, oh, that would be so great to do. And
now
to
it's
know,
happening.
yeah, that this is like, I was in Mexico and I heard them say it, to know that they're not being paid by any brand to do that. Like maybe there's a brand that they might do after, before, or after, but there's no brand that said, you know what, I really need you to go out there and get that sardine shot. You know what I mean? With all the whales or whatever it is. They're just going out there and doing that because that's for the love of what they
Feeds your soul.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Yeah. And that's what we feel. That's why their photography, that's why their snaps, their photos, their videos, it just lands different.
And they took a plane to be able to go on that adventure.
And they're out there for boat, like, you know, I think Chelsea or Sam or whatever, they shared that they were out there for 6-7 hours.
Wow.
And they got in the water once for like maybe 30 minutes or an hour. So that's 6-7 hours of them getting seasick. That's 6-7 hours of them not feeling great. That's 6-7 hours of them not finding the sardines, not finding the whales, not finding all the things they're looking for. That's what you don't see. And like I'm only able to speak to it because we saw one 15-second thing that said we were on the boat for 6-7 hours. And luckily I have, you know, because we did the AnyDesk campaign, I'm chatting with some of them, you know, behind the scenes on different things. So I get a little bit of an imprint of what it's actually like in some ways. Yeah, it's just, it's way, there's so much more effort in it, but it's not about the shot or how many people view the video. It's actually about and you know, this is the most cheesy thing, but it really is about the journey to get the shot in the first place. It really
is. It's that it's so hard.
Yeah.
And that's what it's intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm got to say thank you so much for taking the time to come out. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you so much for documenting your authentic truth when it comes to being, you know, the nature side of things, and then how you're navigating through all of that. I think your photography is amazing. I'm super excited to work with you on something.
Same.
Super excited to go out on some trip that has nothing to do with anything other than just to go and get that
Full
shot and
pleasure.
live the moment. Yeah, I would love to invite you to do something like that. I would love to be invited to go and do something like that. I'm certain that I will be creating with you and surely capturing some of those moments alongside you in the future.
No doubt.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for having me here. First time.
Yeah, you did great. You did great. Yeah, it's just a conversation.
Yeah, it's just a conversation. A good one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So for anybody who's looking to follow you, any of those things, you know, first of all, I'll say, you know this, if you got all the way to the end of this podcast, the links are down below. But if there's something specific that you want them to go check out. Maybe they want to go check out the Corona video or follow you on Instagram. All those links are down below, but is there anything else you'd want to send people to?
No, there's nowhere else for now. Maybe eventually a website, but
I'm working on it, I'm
working
sure.
on it.
As any good creator would. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you got to the end of this podcast. It means this podcast was incredibly valuable to you in some way, shape, or form because you got here to the end. So if you got to the end, then maybe, just maybe, you would hit that subscribe button. Maybe, just maybe, you hit that bell notification, the like, the comment, all those things that we talked about because they're good for the algorithm. And they're like a simple, easy way that you can, from your chair, from your couch, or from your bed, or from wherever you're watching this on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, blah, 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 that you can help let more people see this. Share it to somebody who might be interested or impacted by it. And hopefully it was inspiring to you. Leave your questions down below. We'll see you in the next episode, ladies and gents. Bye-bye.